So let's get into a couple claim scenarios. And this will give you just a basic, again, these are really high-level claims, but we've seen them. These are actual claims. And I think it always helps when you're selling professional lines, whether it is E&O or EPLI or even D&O, to have claims examples. And I know we have a ton that we could provide and CID could provide, but it's really important to be able to talk about what the exposure is when you're trying to sell professional liability to someone. But this one's a real basic one. It's a tax preparer or accountant. And essentially they were an accountant for a salon. And they did the taxes from 2009 all the way up through 2017. What happened was the salon decided to sell the salon, which happens a lot. And the new owners, of course, they based their purchase on projected revenue. So they looked at tax returns all the way, from 2009 up through 2017, just to see how the salon did, to kind of get an idea of, what type of clientele, what type of profit they were about to make. And what happened was, go to the next slide if you could. What happened was back in 2013, 2014, there was an amended tax return. And on the amended tax return, the gross revenue was changed. The accountant didn't keep track of why they made the change. They just simply made the change. They didn't dig into it. And so what really happened was that the salon really falsified their documents. They lied about their revenue, but the accountant wound up paying on this because they didn't document why they made the change. And at the end of the day, the insurance carrier wound up paying $80,000, but it took a lot to defend. It was $53,000 to defend and $80,000 to resolve. So just an example of negligence. It's not that they didn't lie about the revenue, but they were negligent in keeping accurate files. And that's why they wound up paying. So very basic example, but you can see that all the time. The next one is a background checking service. And again, there are many of these, but this is a very common one. Background screening firm was sued for attributing 6 criminal convictions and was sued for lost wages and mental anguish. Basically, they used a vendor's database, and this happens a lot. They picked up the results of someone else with a very similar name. It was John R. Smith versus John L. Smith, something like that. So the plaintiff, who had been arrested on car theft charges in 2004, applied for employment at the car dealership, and on the application indicated they had never had pled guilty or no contest to a crime or never been convicted of a crime. He was the one that provided inaccurate information. But he demanded $100,000 in actual damages, $86,000 in punitive, and $13,000 in fees and costs. If you can go to the next slide. The crazy thing is the plaintiff was suing for $100,000, but it was a car salesman. The most he ever made in the past was $20,000, and really in this capacity was only going to be $10,000. As the best salesman at the company earned $46,000. But it came back to the background checking service not doing their due diligence. They had insufficient protocols in place for maximizing the accuracy of information. At the end of the day, we wound up resolving it for $60,000 in an effort to make sure there was no further litigation. So a lot of times what will happen is that insurance carriers, they don't want to go to trial. No one really wants to go to trial, so they'll resolve it in an effort to prevent it from going to trial. This is just another example of someone getting paid who really, they lied, but yet at the end of the day, the background checking service was the one that was sued because they were negligent. It's crazy how that works, but those are just 2 examples of some claim activity.
So,
does
Kevin,
anyone have?
There's a question that's been brought up, and I thought when you mentioned punitives, I figured this would come up. They're asking, with E&O policies, is the claimant able to also sue for punitive damages, unlike GL coverage?
They can sue for punitives. You don't see it a lot on the professional. On the E&O side, it's more of an EPL D&O thing. But yes, you can sue for punitives. It depends on if the state allows you to sue for punitives. So It will really depend. Most carriers will provide coverage for most favorable venue, and will provide coverage for punitive damages if allowed by law.